Far beyond the reach of modern roads, where the sun blazes mercilessly over mountains that seem carved from another era, lies the ancient heart of Oman. This land, battered by time yet undefeated, holds something few have ever truly understood. Its greatest treasures are not buried beneath the sand or sealed inside crumbling tombs. They flow silently within the blood of its people, ancient echoes of journeys, battles, and forgotten empires. Long before the rise of civilization, before the first words were carved onto stone tablets, before the prophets walked the earth, there were travelers, fragile bands of humans, daring enough to leave the cradle of Africa, crossing the narrow seas and barren wastelands. Their footprints vanished under shifting sands. Their stories disappeared from memory, and yet their legacy survived, locked within the DNA of a chosen few. Oman became their sanctuary, their bridge between worlds. Its cliffs bore witness to their hopes. Its oceans swallowed their fears. Time would weave their blood into something unique, a living relic, invisible yet indelible. While empires rose and crumbled around them, the people of Oman carried forward the whispers of the first migrations, encoded deep within their veins. What makes Oman different is not found in its towering forts or bustling souks. It is found in the silent guardians who walk its streets even today. The men, women, and children whose very existence is a testament to journeys so ancient that they slip beyond the reach of written history. Every heartbeat echoes a voyage across the seas. Every breath draws from the dreams of those who dared to seek new worlds. They are the silent guardians of time, and through them, the first chapters of humanity's story continue to live. In a world still young, when continents wore unfamiliar faces and the oceans raged without mercy, the first whispers of human ambition stirred. They came not as conquerors, but as survivors, fragile yet unbreakable. From the Horn of Africa, they gazed across the narrow throat of the Red Sea, daring to dream of a new land beyond the mist. That land was Oman. It was not by accident that their restless feet touched these shores. The Bab el-Mandab Strait offered a bridge between continents, but it was Oman's coastline that offered a future carved not in stone, but in survival. Here, between arid deserts and tempestuous seas, the first chapters of the human odyssey began to unfold. The migrants who reached Oman were not mere wanderers. They were architects of destiny. Every step they took left an invisible mark, weaving their genetic code into the soil, the mountains, and the winds. While other parts of the world built monuments of stone, Oman built monuments of blood, lineages that would endure for tens of thousands of years. These early humans did not find paradise. They found struggle. Relentless heat, unforgiving terrain, and fierce storms battered their bodies. Yet they endured. Their resilience became part of their very DNA, shaping the silent, unbroken chains that run through the veins of Oman's people today. As millennia passed, waves of others followed. From Mesopotamia's fertile rivers, from India's ancient valleys, from Africa's lush savannas, all found their way to Oman. Not every journey ended in survival. Many vanished without trace, but those who stayed added new layers to a growing, living mosaic. A mosaic so subtle, so intricate, that even the finest scholars struggle to unravel its story fully. In the great theater of early human migration, Oman was not a backdrop. It was a stage where survival, adaptation, and ingenuity played out against a harsh and beautiful landscape. Those ancient footsteps, those desperate hopes carried by ragged voyagers across endless miles, found refuge here. Today, when you stand upon Oman's rugged shores and let the wind brush against your face, you are feeling the breath of those who dared the impossible. Oman was their hope, their haven, their bridge to the future, and through them, it became one of humanity's first true homelands. Beneath the surface of Oman's rugged mountains and silent deserts, a secret tapestry lies woven into its people, a tapestry not seen with eyes, but only through the lens of deep science. In the cells of Omani families, ancient codes whisper stories older than any kingdom, older than any script carved onto stone. Scientists, armed with the tools of modern genetics, found something they did not expect. Traces of journeys so ancient that they vanish into the mists of prehistory. Among these traces, The rare Y-DNA haplogroup J1, M267, rises like a beacon. Carried by ancestors who trekked from distant lands during the Neolithic era, it binds Oman to a narrative of survival, of movement, of adaptation. But Oman did not merely inherit this lineage, it transformed it. Another signal emerges, the ancient haplogroup E3b1, M35. Its roots trace back to the fertile lands of East Africa and the Levant, yet in Oman it took on a distinct flavor, mixing with the blood of travelers from India, Persia, and beyond. These are not mere statistics, they are living fingerprints of migrations so deep that even myths fail to capture them. Oman's genetic map reveals something rare even among ancient civilizations, a layering of lineages without erasure. Here, newer arrivals did not simply replace the old, they intertwined. Threads of Africa, threads of South Asia, threads of the Mediterranean, all interwoven in a pattern as complex and beautiful as the traditional Omani weavings that have adorned markets for centuries. Unlike populations where one genetic signal overpowers others, Oman's DNA holds the echoes of many, none dominant, none lost. It is a land where bloodlines did not conquer each other, but danced together across centuries of trade, war, love, and resilience. Each rare marker found in an Omani genome is a note in an ancient song, a song that tells of voyages across treacherous seas, of silent marches across empty deserts, of meetings under star-strewn skies, where language failed but blood remembered. In a world where so many histories were erased by conquest and time, Oman's DNA remains one of the few places where the past hums quietly beneath the skin, intact, defiant, and achingly beautiful. Along the shimmering edge where the land of Oman meets the restless waters of the Gulf of Oman, a secret highway was carved, not by kings, not by armies, but by time itself. A hidden passage where deserts surrender to the sea, offering ancient travelers a narrow, vital lifeline between continents. Here, where the harshness of the interior gave way to the forgiving embrace of the coastline, humanity found a way forward, not trapped by the brutal deserts of Dashti Kavar or the towering Hindu Kush, but guided instead by the gentle pull of the tides. Generations of people moved, traded, mingled, and unknowingly stitched together a genetic masterpiece. The coastal crescent was not a border, it was a living artery. From the African savannas, from the Indus Valley, from the lushness of Persia, people arrived with different faces, different tongues, but all left their invisible imprints. Oman became a meeting ground not of nations, but of bloodlines. The DNA of its people tells a story not of domination, but of fusion. Haplogroups once isolated in distant lands now flowed side by side through Omani veins, mingling, intertwining, creating something the world had never seen before. A genetic signature as fluid and dynamic as the seas that had carried their ancestors here. Unlike the closed pockets formed by mountains and deserts elsewhere, the Gulf of Oman was a passageway that defied isolation. It became a realm where ideas, cultures, and genes crossed without barriers, shaping a population so diverse that even the most detailed genetic maps struggle to capture its complexity. As ships braved these waters, as caravans hugged the coastal curves, they did not just carry silks or spices. They carried lifeblood, weaving Oman into the fabric of a world much larger than itself. And through every heartbeat today, that ancient coastal rhythm still echoes, whispering of journeys made under foreign stars, of meetings at windswept shores, of an inheritance shaped not by conquest, but by connection. Long before maps knew the names of oceans, Oman's shores were alive with the crack of sails and the cries of traders. Here, between the restless waves and the silent sands, countless journeys began, journeys not marked by conquest, but by the hunger for connection, for survival, for prosperity. Oman's sailors were among the first to challenge the vastness of the Indian Ocean, weaving invisible bridges between Africa, India, Mesopotamia, and beyond. The ships carried more than spices and precious stones. They carried ideas, languages, dreams, and bloodlines. Every voyage stitched a new thread into the fabric of Omani ancestry, threads that today can still be traced in the deep currents of their DNA. But not all who arrived came willingly. Across these waters, the brutal reality of the slave trade left an undeniable mark. Men, women, and children were torn from their homes, their voices silenced. Yet their genetic echoes endured. Within Omani DNA, subtle signatures of East African heritage whisper of sorrow and survival, of lives lost and legacies unwilling to be erased. As bustling ports like Sohar and Sur grew into hubs of commerce, Oman became a melting pot unlike any other. Persian merchants, Indian craftsmen, African sailors, each added a verse to Oman's living poem, a poem not written in ink, but carried within the blood. Where others built kingdoms on the bones of the conquered, Oman built something far rarer, a culture born of exchange, not extinction. Even in the quietest corners of modern Oman, in faces weathered by sun and salt, you can glimpse the silent inheritance of those ancient voyages. The arch of a brow, the curl of a smile, the rhythm of a heartbeat, all bearing witness to centuries when the seas were roads and every arrival rewrote the story of a people. Omani DNA is not a simple lineage traced in straight lines. It is a vast, interwoven ocean, carrying the forgotten songs of merchants, slaves, and sailors who refused to be forgotten. Their legacies live on, not as monuments or ruins, but as a timeless force, flowing, breathing, and enduring within every soul that calls this land home. Across a narrow stretch of land and sea, two ancient neighbors stand, Oman and Yemen, bound by geography, but separated by the invisible currents of history, culture, and blood. Thousands of years ago, the same winds carried migrants across these lands. The same stars guided their voyages. Yet as centuries passed, the destinies of their people unraveled along two very different paths, written not just in chronicles, but etched deep into their DNA. In Yemen, isolation built invisible walls. Families grew inward, marriages circled tighter within clans, and generations wove themselves into closed loops. The consequence was inevitable, a narrowing of genetic diversity, a tightening of the ancient tapestry until it frayed at the edges. Lineages repeated, and once vast rivers of ancestry became still, shallow pools. Across the border, Oman's story danced to a different rhythm. Traders and sailors swept in from distant continents, mingling their blood with local tribes. New faces, new languages, and new genes arrived not as invaders, but as fellow travelers seeking survival. Each marriage, each birth, each whispered vow across cultures added another vibrant thread to Oman's ever-growing mosaic. While Yemen's bloodlines grew familiar and unchanging, Oman's became a symphony of resilience. Haplogroups that spoke of Africa, Persia, India, and Arabia merged together, refusing to be confined by walls of tradition. It was not conquest that shaped Oman's DNA, but curiosity, an openness to the unknown, a bravery to embrace what was different. Today, the genetic landscapes of Oman and Yemen tell two starkly different stories. Yemen's markers whisper of ancient glory, frozen in time. Oman's markers sing of journeys, of encounters, of restless tides that never allowed their story to stand still. Two lands, two peoples, two genetic fates, one clinging to the past, the other forever carried forward by the winds of change. Long before written words could capture the essence of migration, it was the animals that silently bore witness to humanity's restless journey. Among them, the goats of Oman became living testaments to ancient tides of movement, survival, and change. These creatures, hardy and unyielding, crossed deserts and mountains alongside early settlers. In their bloodlines, much like in their human companions, traces of far-off lands still linger, genetic echoes of forgotten caravans and salt-soaked voyages. Omani goats do not tell their story through grand monuments or ancient scrolls. They carry it quietly, hidden deep within strands of mitochondrial DNA, patterns that mirror the journeys of men and women who traveled from Africa's shores, from India's coasts, and from the valleys of Mesopotamia. Their genetic map is not a separate tale, but an intricate reflection of the same forces that shaped Oman's people. When the ancient mariners of Oman ventured across seas toward the Indus Valley or the Horn of Africa, they brought with them more than goods. They carried life itself, goats, bred for resilience, for survival, for companionship on journeys where tomorrow was never promised. Through centuries of trade, war, drought, and empire, the animals adapted as the people did. Their bloodlines, too, bear the marks of mixing, of endurance against brutal odds, of blending strength from distant lands into something uniquely Omani. To gaze upon the rugged goats that roam Oman's highlands today is to look into a mirror of ancient migrations. Their hooves tread the same worn paths their ancestors once knew, and their existence whispers a truth so often forgotten, that survival is not a story of standing still, but of moving forward, adapting, embracing the unknown. Oman's animals, like its people, are living chronicles, silent witnesses to a time when the world was stitched together not by borders, but by the courage to journey beyond the horizon. Beneath every heartbeat, hidden in the silence between breaths, lies a story older than any kingdom, older even than the deserts and oceans themselves. It is a story written not with ink, but with life. It pulses quietly in every Omani today, carrying memories of worlds that time itself could not erase. DNA is not just a molecule. It is a library, an unbroken archive where every voyage, every battle, every whispered prayer of survival has been carefully preserved. In Oman, this library holds chapters few places on Earth can still read. Chapters of migrations under blood-red skies, of alliances forged under foreign stars, of resilience against forces that would have destroyed lesser lineages. Every genetic strand in Oman's people is a woven thread of humanity's greatest risks and greatest hopes. Within their cells live the ghosts of African pioneers, Persian sailors, Indian traders, and ancient desert warriors. They did not leave monuments behind. They left a code, a language only the blood could understand. Unlike stone temples that crumble into dust or empires that vanish beneath the sands, DNA endures. It carries the laughter of a forgotten wedding by the shores of the Gulf, the sorrow of a last farewell before a voyage across hostile waters, the triumph of survival after journeys no map could predict. In the face of wars, plagues, invasions, and endless change, Oman's genetic soul remained intact. It adapted, welcomed the new, preserved the old, not erasing history, but layering it, like centuries of winds sculpting a mountain into something eternal. Today, when an Omani child laughs under the same sun that once guided ancient caravans, they do more than live, they echo. They are living monuments, breathing memorials to the journeys that shaped not just Oman, but the very story of humanity itself. Their DNA is a living memory, a testament that no distance is too vast, no time too long, for the courage to survive, to adapt, and to remember.